The pregnancy test was tucked neatly in the top drawer of the nightstand, hidden among creams and nail files. A white stick with 2 pink lines, simple marks that turned my whole life upside down. I held in my hands, feeling as if someone had gripped my chest from the inside. 2 lines. Clear, confident, almost mocking. A miracle, Lisa had called a week ago. She'd dropped the word casually, between coffee and a call to her friend, with the same tears in her eyes she'd once had when she said yes at our wedding. But this miracle had nothing to do with me. We had not been trying. In fact, I was the one who insisted there would be no more kids. We already had 2, Jessica and Catherine, teenagers who drained all our time and patience. Lisa herself had said it. "John, I am not ready for another baby. I want to live for myself." And now suddenly, 2 lines. I sat on the edge of our bed, the same bed I'd been sleeping in alone for months, staring at the test like it was a verdict. Inside, everything turned upside down. To conceive, you need intimacy, and we did not have that. Sure, there were rare, half-hearted attempts, more out of obligation than anything else, but not at the time that could have produced this result. Not mine. And I knew it, painfully, with absolute clarity. The phone on the nightstand buzzed. A message from Lisa. "Do not wait up, honey. Avi, you got a driving lesson." Kisses. Driving lessons. At 9 in the evening, when every normal school is closed. With that instructor, David. Tall, athletic with that cocky smirk. I'd seen the way he looked at her when he came to pick her up. I'd seen the way she straightened her shoulders when she walked toward his car, how she touched her hair. David drove a black Mustang and carried himself like he owned the town. He loved showing off, loved the attention from suburban wives of wealthy men. But he watched mine with special focus. And she saw it. I laughed, but the laugh came out hoarse, forced, echoing through our spacious house, bouncing off the walls and coming right back to me. It was the laugh of a man realizing that 20 years of marriage could end faster than a turn of a key. Our 5-bedroom house, with its perfect lawn and 3 cars in the garage, suddenly felt like a cage. Every family portrait on the walls turned into evidence. Every piece of furniture became a lie wrapped in expensive packaging. I looked at those photos, vacations, holidays, smiling faces. And now, they all seemed to belong to strangers. I went downstairs to my office. An old yellow legal pad sat in the desk drawer, my tool for the most serious plans. I opened it and wrote at the top of the page, Lisa's game. And below it, my rules. She thought she was playing chess, and that I was just a pawn. But I was about to flip the board. For 3 days, I wore the mask. In the mornings, I made her coffee. At night, I rubbed her feet, smiled, and listened to her stories. She ate it up like chocolate cake, basked in the role of the happy wife, even posted Instagram stories about her amazing husband. And under the table, she typed messages. I saw the phone light up when she thought I was not watching. "You've been so attentive lately," she said one morning at breakfast, sipping her green smoothie. "What has changed?" "Just happy about the news," I answered, spreading butter on toast like it was a surgical operation. 20 years of marriage, and we can still make miracles happen. Lisa blushed like a schoolgirl, and that was the worst part. She loved lying. She loved playing the role while I smiled, knowing the truth. Jessica and Catherine sat across from us, buried in their phones. Typical teenagers, pretending not to notice adult drama, though I was sure they picked up on more than they let on. "Dad, can I take the Ford tonight?" Jessica asked, not looking up. "Ask your mom," I said automatically. She asked the family's social coordinator. Lisa smiled, pleased that her word carried all the weight. She'd always loved control, vacation plans, dinner menus, every decision. It used to impress me. Now it just irritated me. A beautiful dictator in an expensive dress. On the drive to the office, one thought kept circling in my head, evidence. Suspicions without evidence mean nothing. I needed hard proof. Documented. Undeniable. I knew exactly what to do. Bring in people who dig deeper. In my company, I had Mark, my COO, a former cop. He was one of the few men I trusted more than myself. I showed him the photo of the test. 3 months along, I said, and we have not been together in 4. Do the math. Mark whistled. Think it S. David? I am sure. But I need proof, Mark. Paperwork, photos, everything airtight. He studied me for a moment. You sure you re-ready? Once this comes out, there's no going back. I passed that point a long time ago. Now I just need ammo. That night, Lisa dressed up for a girls' night. A little black dress, high heels, perfume worth hundreds. Do not wait up, she said at the mirror, fixing her hair. Tara's dealing with a divorce. She needs me. I nodded. Of course. Have fun. She left, leaving behind the trail of her perfume and a hollow silence. At 11:47 p.m., a message buzzed on my phone. Staying at Tara's. She's devastated. Love you. Tara lived in a house. Not in a hotel room with beige walls. The ones I saw in Lisa's selfie from earlier. I poured myself a scotch, sat in my office, and started writing everything down. I needed a timeline. Every lie, every step. A week later, Mark introduced me to a private investigator. She was a former FBI agent, mid-50s, calm, confident, with eyes that could cut glass. Your wife is not careful, she said, sliding an envelope across the table. 3 weeks of surveillance, and we've got enough for a documentary. I opened it. Photos, Lisa and David holding hands at dinner, walking into a motel, leaving 3 hours later, driving off in his Mustang. Everything time-stamped twice a week like clockwork. I stared at the images and did not feel anger. Just something cold. Calculation. The pregnancy lines up with the start of their meetings, the PI added. DNA test would be conclusive, but the odds are obvious. I nodded. And David? Married. 2 kids. His wife has no clue. But at the club, she smirked, he brags about it. Says he stole the wife of a security company owner. I clenched the photos. Lisa was not just unfaithful. She made me into a joke. I got home late that night. Lisa sat on the couch, scrolling through her feed, smiling at something on her phone. How was your day? She asked without looking up. Productive. Yours? Oh, pregnancy is exhausting. I just want to sleep all the time. She reached over, placed my hand on her stomach. Our miracle. It felt like touching a piece of evidence. Proof of a crime. Yes, I said. Our miracle. But inside, I already knew it was not mine. It was David's child. And Lisa, the woman I'd spent 20 years with, was a stranger playing a game I never agreed to. I'd always thought of myself as a decent actor. In business negotiations, that skill had saved me more than once. Keeping a straight face when everything inside me boiled, smiling at a client, even when I knew he was lying, still selling him the deal as if I believed every word. But now I realized all of that had been rehearsal. The real performance had begun at home. I became the kind of husband magazines like to praise. Coffee in bed, candlelit dinners, words of support, light kisses on the cheek. Lisa glowed, soaking it all in like she'd finally gotten what she'd been waiting for. You've been so tender lately, John, she said one morning as I set down a cappuccino and a plate of toast. Honestly, I am not used to this. I smirked to myself. Of course she was not. Years of her complaints and constant dissatisfaction had shaped her expectations. Now she thought I'd suddenly seen the light, turned into the perfect husband. She did not understand. This was not love. This was strategy. At breakfast, I listened to her chatter about new dresses, about friends who just not keep their lives together, and I played the part, admiring her strength, her beauty. In the evenings, I massaged her shoulders even when my fingers ached. I nodded, smiled, and said all the right words. But inside, only cold emptiness grew. At the office, it was different. That's where I dropped the mask. My deputy Mark spotted it right away. You look like you re-gearing up for war, he said, walking into my office with 2 cups of coffee. I shut the door and switched on the scrambler, a habit from the days we worked government contracts. Mark, I need evidence. Hard proof. Photos, videos, receipts. Stuff no one can argue with. He studied me. His gray eyes always saw more than I wanted. You sure you ready for this? Once you start digging, there's no turning back. I already found the pregnancy test, I said, showing him the photo on my phone. 3 months along. We have not been together in 4. You do the math. Mark let out a low whistle, frowned, and slowly set his cup down. The driving instructor? Him. David. I want everything on their meetings. All right, Mark nodded. I know someone. Private investigator, ex-FBI. Works clean, documentation always solid. If this ends up in court, it'll hold. A few days later, I met her. Her name was Sarah Miller. Mid-50s, sharp suit, calm and surgical in her movements. Her eyes were cold and precise, like a surgeon before the cut. Your wife is not very careful, she said, laying out the first photos. We've only been watching her a week, and we've already got more than enough for suspicion. I picked up the pictures. Lisa stepping out of David's Mustang, face lit up. Another shot, them in a cafe, holding hands. A third, walking into a motel on the outskirts of town. Time stamped, same nights as her so-called driving lessons. My stomach twisted. Even knowing the truth, seeing it on paper was worse than imagining it. This is just the start, Sarah added. We've also pulled her bank activity. She's using the joint account to pay for these lessons. Restaurants, motels, shopping trips, all from family funds. I flipped through the statements. The amounts were not small. Fine dining, boutiques, even a weekend in another city, hotel included. All on her card. My card. She does not even try to hide it. I asked, I still on the papers. On the contrary. Feels like she wants you to find out, Sarah said evenly. Plenty of wives do this. Testing the limits, seeing how much they can lie before the husband notices. That evening I came home with a stone face, though inside a storm raged. Lisa greeted me at the door in a new dress. Such a long day. Poor thing, she said, kissing my cheek. Dinner's ready. I smiled. You look beautiful. Thanks for taking care of me. She had no idea. I'd seen the photos, read the statements, knew about the hotels. To her, I was still the naive John, blissfully unaware. And the game thrilled her even more. The next day, Sarah handed me more. Here's the chat logs, she said, sliding over a stack of pages. We got access to her messages from leaked phone data. I read them, and my blood ran cold. Lisa to her friend. John works non-stop, does not even realize I am living a whole other life. David makes me feel like a woman again. Her friend replied, be careful. Husbands can get vengeful if they find out. Lisa added, he would not. And even if he suspects, I'll say he is paranoid. No one will believe him. I gripped the pages until my fingers went white. She was not just cheating. She was already scripting a way to paint me as the crazy one. Mark stepped into my office as I sat there staring at the photos again. So, how are you holding up? Cold, I said. I thought it'd be rage. But inside it's just cold. That's normal, he said. UV shifted into calculation. I nodded. He was right. Anger burns you out. Calculation burns everything else. That night, the performance went on. We sat at dinner, Lisa talking about plans, new furniture, a summer trip to Miami. We should redo the living room, she said. And maybe the beach in July? The girls would love it. I smiled, nodded, played along. But in my head, I wrote, trip equals cover for meetings. Check tickets, reservations. Lisa looked at me, and what she saw was the convenient husband who bankrolled her life. She did not realize I had my own plan now. 2 weeks later, a folder sat in my safe. Inside, photos of Lisa and David kissing by his car, receipts from restaurants and motels, all paid with our card, printouts of her chats about her double life, even receipts for gifts she bought him with my money. Each document was a knife in the back. Together, they were a weapon. One night, I heard her whispering in the bathroom. I stopped at the door, listening. Of course, tomorrow. I'll just say it's another lesson, she giggled. Yeah, John has not got a clue. He has even nicer lately. Probably guilty conscience. Her laugh, light, ringing, hit harder than words ever could. I went back to the bedroom, lay down, and pretended to be asleep. She slipped into bed, wrapped her arm around me. All I felt was her lie pressing against me. The next morning, in my office, I opened the yellow legal pad and wrote, Stage 1 complete. Evidence collected. She thinks this is theater. She does not realize I am the director now. I leaned back in my chair. Lisa thought she was fooling me, but I already held her life inside a folder of documents. The play had just begun. The driving instructor, the suburban punchline, turned out to be as predictable a fool as I imagined. David loved to brag. Bar chatter, client gossip, whispers to neighbors. He savored the details, as if sleeping with another man's wife made him a champion. Sarah brought me another packet of evidence. We met at a small cafe on the edge of town, far from familiar eyes. She slid the folder across the table, moving her latte aside. Your instructor has a rare kind of arrogance, she said flatly. Tells his buddies he stole a businessman's wife. I opened the folder. Photos, statements, but the centerpiece was a transcript. David at the bar after lessons. Yeah, I am seeing Lisa. She's married to that security hotshot, but I am way more fun. Pregnant? Maybe mine. Who knows? Does not matter. She's hooked now. The words hit harder than any picture. This was not some fling. This was a scheme. He married? I asked, eyes fixed on the pages. Yes, Sarah nodded. Wife. Name is Amanda. 2 kids, 10 and 8. From what we can tell, she's still in the dark. I closed the folder, fist tightening. She deserves to know. Amanda was not at all the woman I expected. I pictured the stereotypical instructor's wife. Simple, tired, swallowed up by the kids. But when I finally met her, I realized I'd been wrong. We arranged to meet at a cafe in the suburbs, a place where no one we knew would show. She arrived on time, tall, tidy hair, sharp brown eyes. In her hand was a slim leather folder, as if she herself had come for negotiations. John, she asked, extending her hand. Her voice was calm, confident. Amanda, I said, shaking it. We sat by the window. For a moment, silence. Neither of us knew how to start. I suspected, she said finally. These past few months, he came home late, said students were nervous, wanted extra hours. But deep down, I knew it was not just work. I pulled an envelope from my jacket and placed it on the table. Your instincts were right. She opened it, slowly flipping through the photos. Lisa and David, a restaurant, a motel, a parking lot. Not a flicker of emotion crossed her face, but her fingers whitened around the pages. How long? She asked quietly. Roughly 6 months. She leaned back, eyes closed. 6 months. And all this time, I defended him to the kids. Told them their dad was just busy with work. I had no words. We sat in silence until she opened her eyes again. No anger, just cold resolve. Are you planning to divorce her? She asked. I do not know yet. But I've got one undeniable piece of proof. Lisa is pregnant, and the child is most likely his. Amanda flinched, then steadied herself. Then it's worse than I thought. That evening I got home late. Lisa was asleep already. I stood by the bed, looking at her face. Peaceful, innocent. The same woman I'd spent 20 years with. Yet now she looked like a stranger. She carried another man's child and did not even consider confessing. I lay down beside her, turning toward the wall. My heart beat slow and heavy, bracing for impact. The next day, Amanda and I met again. She brought documents, bank statements, family expenses. He has been burning through money, she said. Fancy dinners, hotels. I thought it was just some midlife splurge. Now I know. He was spending it on your wife. I flipped through the records. The sums matched Sarah's findings exactly. The puzzle clicked into place. So they were not just cheating, I said. They funded it with our family's money. Exactly, Amanda answered coldly. And in that moment, I understood we had a common enemy, and neither of us intended to retreat. That night, I tested Lisa. How was your day? I asked, feigning interest. Oh, wonderful. A driving lesson, then shopping with a friend. I am so happy, John. You not imagine. She beamed. I nodded. I am glad for you. She did not know I'd already seen the restaurant receipt, or the photos of her and David holding hands in that same parking lot. A few days later, Sarah delivered more. Among the files was the most damning document yet, a copy of Lisa's chat with her friend. Test S positive. Definitely not John S. He has not touched me in ages. Pretty sure it's David S. This changes everything. I read those lines over and over. Each word was a hammer blow. This changes everything. Yes, it would, but not the way she thought. Amanda reacted with a chilling calm. We sat at her place, her kids playing upstairs. So, the pregnancy is confirmed? She asked. Yes. Timeline matches. It S. David S. Kid. She shut her eyes, took a long breath. I always knew he was a fool. But this is beyond. Now the baby S proof he CA not escape. We sat across from each other and, in that moment, understood we were not just betrayed spouses. We were allies. She lost her husband. I lost my wife. But together, we could turn their game into their downfall. I got home late. Lisa was waiting in the living room. Candles lit, a bottle of wine on the table. Surprise, she said with a smile. I want us to have more nights together. We a family, John. I stared at her, wondering how she could play this role so shamelessly. She knew she was carrying another man's child, and still staged this performance. Thank you, I said, sitting down. You rewrite. We are a family. But deep down I knew this family was already broken. All that remained was to prepare for the final act. The next day, I opened my notebook and wrote, Stage 2. Exposure. David is married. His wife Amanda is on my side. Lisa is carrying his child. Now there are 4 players in the game. I set the pen down and, for the first time in a long while, felt no pain, only resolve. The war had begun, and I had an ally. I felt it for weeks. Lisa was preparing her move. Her eyes, the way she spoke to me, it was not just lying anymore. It was rehearsing. She was practicing the role of the victim. In her gaze, I saw calculation. One evening over dinner, she finally said it. John, we need to talk. I looked up from my plate. Of course. About what? About us. She sighed, feigning exhaustion. UVE becomes so controlling. Always checking where I go, who I see. You even get jealous of my friends. I smirked inwardly. She was laying the groundwork. The words that would later appear in her petition. I am just worried about you, Lisa. You re-pregnant. It's natural. Worry. She gave a hollow laugh. You only ever worry about your company, about keeping everything under your control. What about me? I live in a cage. I stayed silent. Let her think her performance was convincing. A couple days later, Mar came to me with an update. I've got to source a law firm. Lisa has been consulting there. Says you cold and abusive, controlling every part of her life. She plans to file first. I expected this, but hearing it still stung. They already drafting papers? I asked. Yeah, emotional abuse, financial control, the usual checklist. I closed my eyes. She was not just cheating. She was aiming to destroy me completely, to paint me as a monster to the girls, to the court, to the public. We'll get ahead of her, I said coldly. The next day, I sat across from my attorney, Patricia Vance. Designer suit, razor-sharp eyes, the manners of a shark. She handled my company's cases for 5 years, and always won. The picture clear, she said, flipping through documents. Your wife is preparing to sue, but if we file first, we control the narrative. And that's exactly what we'll do. She clicked her pen and outlined the plan. First, we file for divorce on grounds of infidelity. Second, we demand a DNA test for the child. Third, we add financial misconduct. What misconduct? I asked. Patricia gave a thin smile. We checked her accounts. She opened a hidden deposit under her maiden name. Money has been trickling there from your joint account. As of now, about $50,000. Small transfers, just enough to avoid flags. My fists clenched. She'd been planning this for months. Not just an affair, an operation. We'll freeze those funds, Patricia continued. Solid proof of deception. The court will love it. And the kids. We'll petition for custody. On your side, stability, business, income, proof of her affair. Add in motels and secret accounts, and her reputation collapses. Cold satisfaction washed over me. Lisa wanted to paint me as the villain. But now I had artillery. That evening at home, Lisa acted like nothing had changed. John, she said as we sat with the girls in the living room, maybe we should go to Miami this summer? We need to refresh things. I nodded. Great idea. Let us talk later. But I already knew. By summer, we'd meet not on the beach but in court. A week later, Patricia filed the papers. The petition listed everything: adultery, misuse of marital assets, concealment of funds. The central demand, a DNA test. This will be a bomb, Patricia said, handing me a copy. If the child is not yours, her entire case collapses. I studied the pages. Each line was a bullet in the war she had started. Lisa found out that evening. I came home to find her in the kitchen, holding the court envelope. Her eyes burned with rage. "How could you?" she screamed. "After everything we've been through, you decide to destroy me?" "Destroy you?" I laughed. "Lisa, you re-carrying another man as child. You spent our money on motels and dinners. You had accounts. Who destroyed who?" She paled, then quickly steeled herself. "You're sick. A jealous control freak, making up stories. No one will believe you." I set a folder on the counter. Photos, receipts, messages, all of it going to court. Her face shifted. For the first time, she realized I had proof. "You think you LL win?" She whispered. "I LL still get the kids. And the money. We LLC." The days that followed turned our home into a battlefield. We smiled for the girls, but every move was a maneuver. Lisa played the loving mother. I played the reliable father. But we both knew the masks were about to fall. One evening, I overheard her whispering to a friend on the phone. "He has lost it. Filed first, demanding a DNA test. If the court believes him, I am done." I walked into the room. She flinched, then forced a smile. "Oh, that was Tara. She's having problems." "Of course," I said. "Everyone has problems." Patricia prepared the next strike. "We secured witness statements," she said. "Restaurant staff saw her with David. Motel clerks confirmed their visits. We got the receipts. All admissible in court." I nodded. "And the hidden accounts?" "Court already subpoenaed them." She not wiggle out. I felt control sliding back into my hands. Lisa wanted to cast me as the monster. Now she was the one standing in the dock. That night, I watched her at dinner, laughing with the girls, telling stories, pretending everything was fine. But I noticed her fingers tremble on the wine glass, her eyes darting away as if searching for an escape. She knew. The war had started, and the first shot was mine. Late that night, I sat in my study and wrote in the yellow pad, Stage 3. The war has begun. Lisa wanted to brand me a monster. But now her affair, her accounts, her lies will be the verdict. I am no longer the victim. I am the accuser. I closed the notebook and poured a scotch. Ahead lay months of hearings, interrogations, and lies. But I was ready. Lisa thought I'd be on the defensive. But I intended to attack. I knew Lisa would not go down without a fight. She'd always been an actress, able to cry on cue, play the wounded wife or the doting mother so well that even I sometimes bought it. If she was in a wage war, her next move had to be dramatic. That evening, her behavior was off. She fussed in the kitchen, texted endlessly, checked the windows again and again. I marked it down in my head. She was staging something. I did not know the details yet, but in my gut, I felt, soon there'd be a scene. It happened at 2 a.m. The crash of glass, then a piercing scream jolted me awake. I grabbed a baseball bat and ran downstairs. The kitchen was chaos. Broken dishes, an overturned chair, and Lisa on the floor. Her blouse torn, faint scratches on her arms, face wet with tears. "He was here," she cried, clutching my shoulder. "John, he tried to kill me." "Who?" I asked. "I do not know. Some man. He ran off when he heard you coming." I scanned the room. The plates were scattered too neatly. The scratches on her skin were shallow, almost painted on. It was all staged. She decided to play the victim, to paint me as the suspect. 10 minutes later, police and paramedics arrived. Lisa was giving the performance of her life, trembling, sobbing, clutching her stomach. "He said I had to pay for this," she whispered between tears. "I think it's because of my husband. He's so controlling. Maybe someone wanted to scare me." One of the officers glanced at me sideways. I understood. She was laying the foundation. In her story, I was already the dangerous, jealous husband. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed no threat to the pregnancy, only superficial injuries. But the medical report was not the point. Her story was. She told anyone who'd listen, Someone tried to kill me. I do not feel safe around my husband anymore. I stayed silent, watched, waited. She did not know the cameras had caught everything. A week earlier, I deinstalled a hidden surveillance system. Tiny cameras in the corners, infrared lenses. And they de-recorded it all. Lisa letting David in, the two of them carefully scattering plates, him lowering her onto the floor without real harm, then running out just before I appeared. I sat in my office, watching the footage, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. It was all there, crystal clear. Proof that she tried to destroy me with a lie. The next morning, when she came home from the hospital, I was waiting in the kitchen. "How are you feeling?" I asked calmly. "I am scared," she said, sitting down. "We need to think about safety. Maybe you should move out for a while." "Really?" I set my phone on the table. "Let us watch something together." I hit play. On screen, her opening the door for David. Her eyes widened. The video showed everything. How they staged a struggle, how she fell on cue, how he ran. She started. "This is the truth, Lisa. Your little show." Her face drained of color, lip trembling. "That recording is illegal. It's my house, my security system, all perfectly legal." I leaned in closer. "And now this marriage is over." We sat across from each other. The silence was heavier than any scream. "You still will not win," she whispered. "I am the mother of your children." "You re the mother of another man's child," I said flatly. "And I'll prove it in court." Tears spilled down her cheeks, but the performance was gone. For a moment, I saw not an actress, but a woman who lost everything. I felt no pity, only cold. "There was a time I loved you," I said quietly. "But now I see, 20 years were a performance. And every performance has an ending." The girls picked up on the shift immediately. That evening at dinner, Catherine asked, "Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced?" I looked at them and nodded. "Yes, girls. We not stay together anymore." Lisa stayed silent. She knew it was over. The next day, I handed the footage to Patricia. She watched it, then looked at me and nodded. "This buries her," the attorney said. "False police report, attempt to frame you for abuse. The judge will tear her apart." Relief washed over me. Not joy that had long since left, but a heavy calm. That evening, Lisa packed a suitcase. I stood in the doorway, watching as she folded her things, avoiding my eyes. "Where will you go?" I asked. "To my sister," she said. "For now." I nodded. "Hopefully you would not need to stage scenes there." She flinched, said nothing, and 5 minutes later, the door closed behind her. I stayed in the quiet house with the girls. They sat on the couch, leaning against each other. I sat down beside them. "It's going to be all right," I told them. "We'll get through this." They nodded, and for the first time in a long time, I knew I was telling the truth. Late that night, I opened my notebook and wrote, "Stage 4. She tried to destroy me with lies. The cameras exposed everything. The marriage is over. Now the war moves to court. But at home, I have the truth and I have my daughters." I closed the notebook and poured myself a scotch. This was not the end. Not yet. But it was close. The final act was inevitable. I always knew this day would come. Wars do not last forever. Sooner or later, one side breaks. Lisa had dragged it out as long as she could. Tears, theatrics, false accusations. But after her failed staged assault, her arsenal was empty. She looked cornered, and that's exactly where I wanted her. We met in the conference room of my attorney's firm. A long mahogany table, leather chairs, glasses of water, the cold glare of overhead lights. He sat beside Patricia. Across from us, Lisa and her new lawyer, a young guy with a smug grin. Lisa looked tired, but her chin was still high. "We ready to negotiate," Patricia began dryly. "But let me be clear. If you plan to play the victim card, do not waste our time." Lisa's lawyer tried to smirk. "My client only wants fairness. Years of marriage to a controlling husband, no support, constant emotional pressure. Enough." I cut him off. My voice was steady. "You know that is a lie, Lisa." She looked straight at me, silent for a few seconds. Then she spoke softly. "Fina, you want the truth?" "I used the pregnancy, John." "Yes, I used it as leverage." I thought if I called it a miracle, I could hold on to you, make you love me again. Silence blanketed the room. Even her lawyer froze, like he had not expected the admission. I leaned forward. Hold on to me? Lisa, you re-carrying another man as child. You destroyed 20 years of marriage, and now you say it was to hold on? Her eyes flickered. For a moment, I saw weakness. I pulled a folder from my bag and set on the table. Everything S in here, I said coldly. Photos from hotels, restaurant bills, our credit card statements showing gifts for your lover, printouts of your messages where you laugh at me, and a video of you and David staging that attack. I locked eyes with her. I've got more power and proof than you can imagine. Half of this in front of a judge, and you lose everything. Her lawyer went pale, fumbling through the pages. The smugness drained out of him with every line he read. If this goes to trial, Patricia added, you walk away with nothing. No house, no custody, no alimony. Infidelity, false accusations, hidden accounts. It all stacks against you. Lisa's hands clenched together. I saw her nails digging into her skin. She understood. Her position had collapsed. What do you want, John? She asked at last. Her voice was hoarse, broken. I want the truth. I want the girls to stay with me. I want the money you stole returned. And I want you to stop pretending you were the victim. She stayed quiet. Her lawyer whispered something, but she waved him off. And if I agree, she asked, then we settle this without dragging it further. You get a share of the assets, but nothing more. And you walk away without the kids. Tears filled her eyes. You retaking everything from me. No, Lisa, you took it all from yourself. For the first time in a long while, she was not acting. No performance, no mask. Just a woman who had lost. Her shoulders slumped. Her eyes went dim. All right, she said softly. I'll negotiate. Her lawyer tried to protest, but she lifted her hand. Stop. I am done. After the meeting, Patricia and I stepped out into the cool evening air. The city buzzed around us. I took a deep breath, feeling a weight drop from my chest. She's broken, Patricia said. All that S left is putting it on paper. I nodded. I know, but that's already a win. The house was quiet when I got home. The girls were on the couch watching TV. When I walked in, they smiled. For the first time in months, I smiled back. Later in my office, I opened the yellow pad and wrote, Stage 5. Final confrontation. Lisa admitted she used the pregnancy as a weapon. The evidence crushed her defense. She agreed to settle. IV won the first real battle. I set the pen down, poured a glass of whiskey, and stared out the window. The war was not over yet, but the outcome was clear. Peace settlements do not sound like victory parades. They read more like a muffled gunshot. Quiet, but final. The courtroom smelled of paper, old wood, and nerves. I sat beside Patricia. Across the table, Lisa and her lawyer no longer looked confident. The fire in her eyes was gone. All that was left was exhaustion and the bitterness of defeat. The judge read the terms. The suburban house stayed with her, but the business was mine alone. Bank accounts were split, though with her hidden transfers exposed, most of it came back to me. Full custody of the girls went to me. Lisa got visitation rights on a schedule. I looked at her and thought, 20 years of marriage, reduced to a few sheets of paper. No vows, no shared memories, no holidays, just signatures, seals, and a legal ending. Her hand trembled as she signed. I put my name below hers, steady and firm. The judge nodded. Divorce granted. With those words, I felt a strange release. Not joy, more like relief. As if ID finally set down a heavy pack ID carried far too long. 2 days later, Metro Brook's top headline broke. Driving instructor arrested for fraud and forgery. On the screen, there was David, disheveled, in handcuffs, let out of the driving school where he once taught women how to hold the wheel the right way. Cameras followed his every step while bystanders whispered. Police confirmed. The staged attack on Lisa had been his doing. The fake report, the smashed plates, the scratches, all carefully scripted to frame me as the aggressor. But my security footage had turned their show into evidence. Add in his cash laundering scheme through fake school contracts, and the case collapsed on him. When I watched the news, there was no gloating, just satisfaction. David had dug his own grave and jumped straight into it. For Amanda, though, that was the breaking point. She came to see me that evening after his arrest. A folder of documents in one hand, a suitcase waiting in her trunk. "I am filing for divorce," she said calmly, almost flat. "I would not live with a man who lied to me and made a joke of our family in front of the whole town." I nodded. We sat in my kitchen drinking coffee. Two victims of the same betrayal. "You redoing the right thing," I told her. "He destroyed not only your marriage, but mine too. At least we walking away stronger." For the first time in a long while, she smiled. Tired but real. "Thank you for showing me the truth, John. Now I can start over." And she left. No drama, no tears. Just walked out into the night, toward a new life. The children stayed with me. The court made it official, but the decision had been made in their hearts long before. Sophia and Mia had seen the lies, felt them, and they knew who had really been there for them. I remember that night. We were sitting in the living room. I had a glass of whiskey. They had mugs of cocoa. The silence was heavy until Sophia spoke. "Dad, we know things will be different, but we agree with you." Mia nodded. "We do not need the act. We just want the truth." Warmth spread in my chest. That alone made all the hell worth it. I kept the business. More than that, after the divorce, secure guard systems gained new life. I pushed harder, invested more, and felt control of my life returning to my hands. One day, Patricia told me, "John, your marriage ended, but you kept the essentials, your kids, your business, and your freedom. Trust me, that's rare." I nodded. She was right. What remained was the only part that truly mattered. Sometimes Lisa called. Her voice softer now, tinged with regret. She asked to see the girls, hinted that she regretted some things. I listened but stayed cold inside. Forgiveness does not mean going back. Those bridges were gone. Only ashes remained. One night she texted, "You deserve better. I hope one day you forgive me." I deleted it instantly. Some doors should never be reopened. Life slowly leveled out. I taught my daughters how to drive. Ironic, considering a driving instructor had destroyed our family. We laughed, argued, cruised through the city at night. I saw in their eyes the confidence that, from now on, life would be honest. And as I sat in the passenger seat, I realized I was finally free. The night David was formally charged, I walked into the yard, poured myself a drink, and looked up at the stars. What I felt was not triumph. It was calm. Victories in battles like these never bring joy. Only quiet after the storm. I thought about the future, raising my daughters to be strong and truthful, building my company higher than ever, and maybe one day meeting a woman who'd be there for the right reasons, not out of convenience. But for now, it was enough just to sit in my yard, hear my daughter's laughter inside, and know I'd wake up tomorrow in a home with no lies. That is how this war ended. Lisa walked away with half the assets, but empty hands where her family should be been. David was behind bars. Amanda was free, and I had what mattered most: my kids, my business, and the right to a new life. For the first time in years, I did not feel like a broken husband. I felt like a man who had stood his ground and won his freedom. The house emptied faster than I expected. Lisa packed in a single day. Expensive dresses, makeup, a few boxes of personal trinkets. She left in silence. No scenes, no drama. Her heels clicked across the hallway floor one last time, then the door closed behind her. When the sound of her taxi's engine faded into the distance, I walked through the rooms. Each one felt different now. Bigger, freer, but colder too. No coats on the rack. No perfume bottles in the bathroom. The kitchen, for the first time in years, smelled only of coffee and fresh bread. On the table, I noticed an envelope. Plain white, no name. Inside, just a short note. "John, I know I've lost everything. I am sorry for what I did to you and to our family. You deserve better. I hope one day you forgive me. Ed." I read it over and over, but felt nothing. No anger, no pain, no pity. Just emptiness. The apology came far too late to change anything. It was like an echo from someone who no longer existed in my life. I crumpled the note, tossed it into the fireplace, and lit a match. The flames swallowed the paper quickly, erasing the last trace of her from this house. Sophia and Mia came home that evening. I met them at the door, and they immediately sensed the change. "Mama's not coming back, is she?" Mia asked quietly. "She has gone," I said evenly. "But this is still your home. Your rooms, our family. We restarting a new life." Sophia nodded, her eyes holding both sadness and relief. "It's the right thing, Dad. I am tired of her games." I pulled them both into my arms, and in that moment, I knew I still had everything worth fighting for. Later that night, I sat out back, watching the sunset. A glass of whiskey in my hand, silence in my head. For the first time in months, the weight was gone. No suspicions. No plans for revenge. No endless fights. Just me, and the future I had to rebuild. My thoughts drifted. I remembered meeting Lisa 20 years ago, the dreams we had about a home, children, a life together. It had been real once. But somewhere along the way, we lost it. She chose the easy road, lies and betrayal. I chose to fight, and now I had what really mattered, freedom and my daughters. The next morning, I made a new list. Not a battle plan, not evidence. Goals. 1. Be the best father I can be. Support Sophia and Mia. Show them that family is not a performance. It has a foundation. 2. Grow the business. Make secure guard systems stronger than ever, so our future is safe. 3. Start over. Build a home with no place for betrayal. Open my heart again someday to someone honest. The list looked simple, but behind it was an entirely new chapter. A week later, my lawyer called. All the papers were signed, the process finalized. Lisa had officially moved to her sister S in another state. No more calls, no more texts, just the occasional email from attorneys confirming settlements. I stepped outside, drew in a deep breath, and for the first time smiled. Freedom smelled like summer air after a storm, clean and sharp. That evening, I took the girls out driving. I coached Sophia on parking while Mia laughed in the back seat, recording everything on her phone. The irony was not lost on me. The family fell apart because of a driving instructor, and now I was the one teaching my daughters how to drive. We laughed, argued, circled through the city streets, and I saw it in their eyes, their trust, their respect. That was worth more than any courtroom victory. When they finally went to bed, I stepped outside once more. The night sky was heavy with stars. I looked up and said quietly to myself, "It is over. Now it is my turn to build a life without lies." I knew it would not be easy, but I also knew I could handle it. I'd already walked through hell and come out alive. And the end of this story was not defeat. It was a beginning. And that is where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.